Was it Friday? Yes, on Friday we started 1/6. We didn't have a ton of time to work on some of the practice, but hopefully you worked on some of them. So we're trying to figure out what X is. How do I get from 6 to 18?
You divide it or something.
Yeah, something.
No, you divide something or something. I don't know. You do something to the number. Something.
6 times what is 18?
6 times 3.
So if I multiply this top by 3, I have to do the same thing to the bottom to keep it equivalent. So what's 10 times 3? 30. So what is X? 30. All right, now we're kind of going back this way, right? From here to here. So how do I get from 36 to 6?
Divided by 6.
So if I divide the bottom by 6, what do I have to do to the top?
Divided by 6 too.
So what's 30 divided by 6?
A number. 6.
5. Not 6.
I'm not saying 5, okay? You said 5.
All right. So sometimes these are going to get difficult, right? Those were easy because we could do them. Here, we're not really sure. Guys, focus. Taylor, find a different seat where your back is not to me. All right. So we figured out what we were dividing by when we said 30 divided by 6 here to get this 6. Here, we said 18 divided by 6 to get this. So how do I figure out what I have to multiply 8 by to get 10? I have to take 10 divided by 8. Right? Isn't 8 times 10 eighths equal to 10? Because I would be canceling this out. But that doesn't help me that way. So that means I'm going to be dividing by this. So if I divide by 10 eighths, I'm really multiplying by 8 tenths. I feel like it might be helpful to look in your workbook. Let's hop back to 1/6 because they gave us some nice.
Oh yeah, I remember that's the right one.
All right, guys. So they went through a bunch of ways. You don't sit by anyone. Landon, sit down. Sit. Sit. All right. So these are a little bit tricky because they're not necessarily in this form, y equals kx. We kind of have to put them in that form. So what if we looked at the ones that we knew to see if we could find a way? Are you ready? We have a proportional relationship. We have two equivalent fractions, so we can go across here. 6 times x we would write as 6x. 10 times 18 we got to put an equal sign here. We would write as 180. If we divided both sides by 6, guys, remember we undo one-step equations. Remember one-step equations?
Yeah, but no, not really.
We undo multiplication by dividing. So if we divide both sides by 6, we're left with x is equal to, what's 180 divided by 6? 30. That's what we should be getting, right?
Yeah.
So we can do all problems this way. Let's make sure it works with number 2. Go across the diagonal. Say B, guys, B times 36 is 36B. Remember, a number next to a letter is multiplication, right, Brooklyn? If you could be quiet, that would be great. She was just a minute ago. So 36B, then your equal sign, then go across your other diagonal. What's 30 times 6? It's actually 180, right? And then we're dividing both sides by 36. So B is equal to 186 divided by 36 isn't 10, it's 5, right? So that's what we are supposed to do, right? So let's forget about how we were trying to think through this and follow that formula. Idle, zip it. We're going to cross the diagonal. So 8 times 7 is what? Nobody knows. 56. Then put your equal sign down. How would I write n times 10? How did I write 36 times b or 6 times x? I just have to write the number and then the letter. And now, I'm just going to divide both sides by what? Here we divided by 36. Here we divided by 6. So here we're going to divide by, what's the number in front of the letter? 10. We divided by 6. We divided by 36. Now we're dividing by 10. So we have 5.6. All right, try number 4. Multiply across. Set it equal. Multiply across. Try it. Try number 4. It's not 5. No, so how could I be a Stanley lover?
I don't know, because it looks like an
It's a simple modern.
You know what? Everybody has to be like everybody else.
I don't know why you're not trying this problem. All right. How do you write 4 times x? Allison, bring me your phone. How do we write 4 times x? How do I write 4 times x? Guys. We just write the number next to the letter. What's 5 times 20? 5 times 20. 100. What am I going to divide both sides by? Let's look at our examples. Here, I divided by 6. Here, I divided by 36. Here, I divided by 10. What am I dividing this by? In each of these, we divided by the number in front of the letter. So what am I dividing by here? 4. Whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side. So x, right? This is just 1x is equal to, what's 100 divided by 4? Think quarters. Think quarters. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Right? All right, try number 5. You might want a calculator for this one. Multiply across. Set it equal. Multiply across again. Try this. Some of you are not showing any work and just writing the answer. It's not going to be helpful for you.
Absolutely not all the more problem. That was a special. Well, when are we doing 5?
Number 5.
Sorry. Jocelyn? It's okay. I know you guys just advertise. Well, average. No, it's average. 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 Like above average. How would you know? Below average. That is super funny. Wait, you are not 5 foot. I'm 5 foot. No, I'm not. No, you're not.
All right, it doesn't really sound like we're working. How do I write n times 27? How did I write 4 times x? I wrote the number next to the letter. Guys, that's all math is a pattern and repeating the pattern. You have to look for the pattern. You have to be able to go back and look at an example and repeat that example. McKenna, do you need to go? I'm not sure why you're running your mouth then. 27n, right? That's n times 27. Now we have 9 times 21. So I said you might want your calculator. 9 times 21 is 189. What do I do now? Not multiplying. Here we divided by 6. Here we divided by 36. Here we divided by 10. Here we divided by 4. So what are we dividing by here? 27. That fraction bar you need to know by now means divided by 189 divided by 27. 7. So n is equal to 7. The reason we divide by 27, remember, is because any number divided by itself is 1. We want to know what 1n equals. All right, last one on this page. Try it. You should be able to do this independently by now. Multiply across. Set it equal. Multiply across. Solve.
1600. It's 100. I do that too. I do that too.
All right, guys, sometimes your variable, your letter is going to be on a different side, and that's okay, right? Remember, you're going across the diagonal, so you're making an X. 16 times 10 is 160. P times 64. How do I write P times 64? No, 64P. What do I do next? Go back and look at what we did here. Go back and look at what we did here. Go back and look at what we did here. This looks just like this. What? Yep, what are we doing? What does that fraction mean? Divide. So what are we dividing by? 64. Perfect. We got it. The reason we're dividing by 64 is because we want to know what 1p is equal to. 64 divided by 64 is 1. Stop running your mouth. Why do we divide by 64? I just explained why we divided by 64. But you have no clue. We divide by 64 because 64 divided by 64 is 1. We want to know what 1p is equal to. So we have to do the math now. 160 divided by 64 is 2.5. Did you guys get 2.5?
Now I understand it.
All right, turn to the next page. All right, 1/6. This is the same as number 1 on page 55 in your workbook. We kind of started setting this up, but let's look at it now that we've been kind of crossing and setting them equal and solving that way. For every 3 girls taking classes at martial arts school, there are 4 boys who are taking classes. All right, so let's say 3, we'll put a G for girls, for every 4 boys. That's our ratio, right? We're setting that equal to something, right? A proportion that could be used to predict the number of girls. So we want to know the number of girls. We don't know it. So we can just call that G. Oh, it says use X to represent the number of girls. So there's X number of girls, but we don't know what it is. What? Because if you can't do this basic math and follow a formula, you won't know how to put any numbers into a formula to do your taxes. It's called stepping skills, foundational skills. Yeah, or you can pay someone, but guess what? Then it'll cost you money, or you could do it for free if you have any math skills. So maybe you should pay attention and learn some math skills. All right, are we ready? Can we get back to this? For every 3 girls, there's 4 boys. It says, rate a proportion that could be used to predict the number of girls taking the classes at the school. Use X to represent the number of girls. So 3 girls for every 4 boys. X girls for how many boys did they say? 236 boys. Oops, 2, 3, 6. So you could write it like this, but we have to continue on in order to solve, right? Remember what we're gonna do? We're gonna multiply across the diagonal. 3 times 236. Landon, do you need to go? All right, well, stay in your seat, please. It's 472. How do I write 4 times x? 3 times 236. We're multiplying across the diagonal, just the way we... 3 came from here. For every 3 girls, there are 4 boys. McKenna, what's the problem? Then come sit up here if there's nothing wrong.
Oh,
So 4 times x, how do we write it? How do I write 4 times x? 4x. Now what do I do? Think, think, think. I'm not multiplying. I'm dividing because I want to change this 4 to a 1. If I divide it by itself, it changes to a 1. So now I'm left with 472 divided by 4. So this is 118 is equal to x is what's left on the right. So there are 118 girls taking classes at the school. All right. So this one is the same as number 2. Number 8 is the same as number 2 on page 55. A grading machine can grade 96 multiple choice tests in 2 minutes. So we could write this as a proportion, right? 96 in 2 minutes. Suppose a teacher has 300 to grade. Write a proportion that could be used to predict the number of minutes it will take the machine to grade the 300 tests. Notice, if we want minutes, we're going to write minutes across from it, right? Minutes across from minutes, tests across from tests. We want the ratios to have to do the same thing, right? Now, you should be able to solve this from here. So try it. Multiply across here. How do I write 96 times x? 96x. 300 times 2. Now what do I have to do? What am I dividing by? 96. Do you guys see the pattern over and over and over? You got to learn the patterns. All right, so that's 1x. So x is equal to 600 divided by 96. 6 1/4. So this will take the machine, that's what's going here, 6.25 minutes to grade the 300 tests. All right, number 9 is just like number 3. Here's our ratio right away. A 6-ounce package of fruit contains 45 pieces. So ounces on the top, pieces on the bottom is equal to, find the number of pieces you would expect. So we don't know pieces. So I'm going to put an X where my pieces go and 10 where my ounces go to figure out how many pieces would be in 10 ounces. All right, so 6 times X, how do I write that? Is equal to 45 times 10, which is 450. Now what do I do? Everybody should know what to do now. Divide by the number in front of the letter. That's called a coefficient. We're dividing by the coefficient. So 450 divided by 6 is 75. So X is equal to 75. In other words, you would expect 75 pieces in a 10-ounce package. Remember, it's always good to think, is that realistic, right? If there's 45 and 6 ounces, would it make sense that there are 75 and 10? So if you didn't get some really small or really big number, it should be reasonable, right? All right, the number 4 is the same as number 10. Of the 50 students in the cafeteria, 7 have red hair. So of the total number of students, 7 had red hair. Suppose there are 750 students. How many would you expect to have red hair? Remember, 7 had red hair, so we're putting our unknown across from that. Try this. Good. Write it down. Make sure you're practicing showing your work. How do I write 50 times X? And then 7 times 750. 5,250? You'll be okay. We have 10 more minutes of class. 10 more minutes. Now what do I do? Yes, we're dividing by that number in front. We got it. Some of you anyway. So X is equal to, we've got to divide this by 50. 105. Is it reasonable out of 750 students at 105? I don't know. I don't know if that is something that's necessarily proportional, right? Number of redheads to total number of students probably isn't a very proportional relationship, but around there. All right. I think this is number 5, so let's do that. The wait times for 2 different rides are shown. Write a proportion that could be used to find the number of minutes you should expect to wait if there are 120 people in line for the swings. Do we need to know anything about the carousel? No. So let's get rid of that so it doesn't confuse us. So we have 12 minutes for 75 people in line. We want to know how many minutes. So remember, this was 12 minutes, so I'm putting our unknown across because we want to know how many minutes if there are 120 people in line. Okay? So try it. Try and get a head start. Use a calculator. Multiply across. Set it equal. Multiply across. So hopefully you said 12 times 120 should be 1440. 1440. And then 75 times X, you should have written as 75X. Now what am I dividing both sides by? 75. Good job, guys. So divided by 75, and out pops our answer. 19 2/10 minutes. So in answer to this question, it was 19.2 is equal to X. All right, number 12 is the same as number 6. So that will be the last one we do today together. If Ingrid types 3 pages in the same amount of time that Tanya types 4.5 pages, write a proportion that could be used to find the number of pages Tanya will have typed when Ingrid has typed 11 pages if they start typing at the same time. All right, so really we have 3 of Ingrid's. I'm just gonna put an I here so I know where to put mine. For every 4.5 of Tanya's. We're setting that equal. We want to know what? No. We have 5 minutes. You're going to be okay. Well, you're not potty training. You'll be okay. So we're trying to find the number of pages Tanya will have typed. So we don't know Tanya. So there's an X across from Tanya when Ingrid has typed 11 pages. What if you actually did what you were supposed to do? Try these. Multiply across. Set it equal. Multiply across. So 3 times x we write as 3x. 4.5 times 11, 49 and a half. And then we're dividing both by 3. So 16 and a half pages. After you finish a problem. So for every 5 girls in the drama club, there are 4 boys. That is your first thing. 5 to 4. Write it as a fraction. Set it equal. Across from the girls, put an X, right? Because that's what we want to find out, is how many girls there are. Guys, try just 1 to solidify it. Tomorrow, you're going to be finishing up this reinforced part.